at Argyle, and welcome to this Argyle Executive Spotlight. Today, we're focusing on event marketing strategy, and I hope that in the course of the next 30 minutes or so, we give you pause for thought and some inspiration as to what you consider to be best practice for your own event marketing strategy and plans. And to do so, I'm going to cover off at the beginning some thoughts about the big picture so far as event marketing is concerned, and then follow with some suggestions on the sorts of things you should be doing now to make sure that your event marketing is best in class for your business. And then finally, I'm going to reveal to you Argyle's recently released second half calendar, featuring the communities and the events that we have scheduled for the back half of the year, with sponsorship opportunities that will be available to you, as well as a variety of other thoughts that I have to share about how we can help you in this very, very important subject. So without further ado, let me begin, however, by making this very important warning that at the risk of oversimplifying some topics which are inherently very complex, I'm about to make some sweeping generalizations, and that's in the interest of sticking to around the 30 minutes we have today. So having said that, I hope you enjoy and take on board a variety of the different points I'm about to share with you. And let's start with the big picture, focusing on, of course, what we're all interested in is the B2B buyer, and what can we do to help ensure that we're engaging and influencing them with the benefit of event marketing, amongst other tactics. And it would go without saying that perhaps one of the most important issues that we face when it comes to addressing folks in this segment is that working virtually is here to stay. And while I'm not going to belabor the detail behind this chart, there are a variety of industries listed here, and the degree to which people are working from home or working on site, of course, varies according to the industry. What matters is that broadly, if you're a knowledge worker, if you're in the business of trading or exchanging information, the likelihood is that you're working from home. And when it comes to B2B buyers, for the most part, they certainly fit that bill. And this is a very important understanding if we're to consider ways in which we engage them, as I will address later in the presentation. As a result, I think, of this very, very important shift, it's clear that the post-COVID sales model is shifting to remote or digital engagement. Now, this chart's from McKinsey. It's a couple of years old. I've seen no evidence to suggest that the numbers in it are directionally any different. And what it's really saying is that when it comes to engagement by a sales team with B2B buyers during different stages, remote engagement is the most likely experience going forward, as B2B customers themselves seem inclined to want to happen. And by virtue of these issues and a variety of others, which I won't dwell on, the buyer journey is longer, more complex, and involves more people than ever. And this is a very, very important insight into what it is we need to do as event marketers and marketers generally when it comes to engaging not just one buyer, but indeed this community of people in various roles, whether as influencers or ultimate decision makers, that are now involved in the buying process. What I think is also very important to reflect upon is that when B2B buyers want to speak to someone, digital is as important as traditional. And I snapped this chart because it's a very, very interesting reinforcement of just how eager B2B buyers are at various stages to go from traditional methods of communication, often involving face-to-face meetings, even phone calls, to having none of that whatsoever, down to the very last stage where they almost always prefer digital. I think it's also very important to note that biographics are changing as baby boomers continue to retire. And the point here is to be made that if you're dealing with a B2B buyer, the likelihood is that they are someone born since 1980. In other words, they're millennial, they're Gen X, or they're Gen Z is the case. Over 65% of the B2B buyer on average is aged somewhere between 18 and 40. And this is reflected in the ways in which B2B buyers go about influencing decisions and approaching research at various stages. 60% going to websites, 55% attending webinars such as this one, 52% conducting research on the supplier via those very same channels, and then 50% evaluating the supplier on things such as peer review sites. All of these are innately digital behaviors that come as a result of the generation that is starting to be the most likely B2B buyer that you will encounter, and the way in which they've been raised, so to speak, as digital natives. And corollary of this is that Facebook and YouTube are the most useful social media for discovery and research, which may surprise many of you, but at the end of the day, these are such powerful channels, particularly YouTube. I've been an advocate in previous webinars on how important video marketing is, and the gorilla in the room so far as video marketing is concerned is absolutely YouTube, which has literally hundreds of millions of daily average users in a variety of different channels. Not also to forget other very important emerging social media platforms, certainly in the B2B marketing light. Take note of the fact that Reddit and TikTok, which are largely attributed as being very youthful platforms, are nevertheless representative here in this survey of B2B buyers' usage of social media. When it comes to asking folks who are involved in the purchase process to describe the sort of change that's been going on in the course of the last 12 to 24 months, the purchase process is more fluid, it's more time-consuming, and it's more ROI-driven. There are a variety of different implications of this, but this speaks to the complexity of content requirements that are beginning to emerge when it comes to engaging B2B buyers. They are far more discriminating in terms of their use of content before engaging with sales, with as little as 1 to 5 pieces of content being consumed prior to engaging with a salesperson in what is practically 70% of the average time that folks search content and use it to influence the way in which they go about engaging salespeople. So let me, with this big picture, wrap up with a variety of different takeaways. One is that biographics are shifting beyond traditional event marketing plans. And we certainly think that it behooves everybody in the event marketing business to think very, very carefully about how they are going to go about engaging with creative and digital approaches to event marketing in future. Secondly, today's buying cycle involves more people, more time, and more digital. And this has tremendous implications for the sorts of content and the sorts of experiences we have to consider when we want to engage buyers. Thirdly, and very, very importantly, by virtue of these communities of influencers and buyers assembling around purchases, multiple digital channels are necessary to achieve the sorts of effective reach required, because each of those different parties in the buying process is likely to have very different media habits. And by virtue of that, it is much more important to expand reach using different channels. Decisions about what content formats and themes you use are absolutely decisive in determining the engagement in the buying cycle that you achieve. It's very important to be placing content in certain experiences, particularly event experiences, at the right time for the right frame of mind. And this is something that I'm going to spend some more time on later in the presentation. And then finally, in my view, the best event marketing takes a top to bottom funnel approach, integrating digital experiences with the most relevant content at each stage of the funnel to maximize engagement and conversion into deals. So with that said, let me offer to you, as a result of some of these insights and some more thoughts, what are the things that you should be doing now to deliver best practice event marketing for your business. I would like to start by just noting some of the very important B2B marketing trends that are underway in terms of adoption when surveyed via this survey conducted amongst B2B CMOs. Clearly, artificial intelligence is very, very important, and that has some meaning, I think, when it comes to thinking about content and putting content in the right format for your audiences. I've talked about video marketing and how important this is, and it continues to be indicative of a very, very important trend going forward. Influencer marketing, I've mentioned in previous webinars, that B2B is long overdue in embracing influencer marketing on its own behalf. And if I can, just call out the fact that still 23% of CMOs in this survey indicate their interest in adopting virtual events and webinars. So for many, there's a lagging but very important desire to bring on board these and other changes in their B2B marketing as we go into 2024. Those of you who surveyed in response said that the best event marketing plans prioritize engagement, attendance, and pipeline. There are clearly other very important things, but when it comes to folks thinking top of mind about what it is they see as the most important priorities for their event marketing strategy, engagement, attendance, and pipeline continue to dominate. Intent data is a subject that's been mulling around the B2B world, I think, in the course of the last few years. And I do want to call out its actionable use in terms of audience recruitment for event marketing. We are users of intent data for this very, very purpose, and we've seen quite dramatic differences by virtue of it. And I'd just call out to you, for those of you who have not explored the application of intent data for such purposes, and perhaps others, that you give it some thought and see whether in fact it might be useful to you. There are ongoing high levels of intention to combining hybrid and virtual events for various reasons. I've spoken at length about the virtual nature of the workforce. In some cases, 40% or so are some of the common general numbers tossed around. As I've said, if you're a white-collar worker dealing in knowledge or sharing information, the likelihood is that you are working from home. And so hybrid and virtual events become very important considerations. Content marketing, events, and email consistently, in terms of data I've collected, generate the highest ROI leads. And that trifecta, if you will, that combination of content marketing, events, and email, in our view, are very important to consideration when it comes to putting integrated event marketing plans together, which I will talk about shortly too. I do want to note, though, that it's very consistent in the research I've done that there are two particular event tactics, public speaking and webinars, which consistently produce the best CAC and ROI. I do think this is a peculiarity of the quality of public speaking and the ability for it to engage audiences when it's done well. Likewise, webinars remain a mainstay of B2B marketers' intentions when it comes to their event marketing mix, and we are, of course, wholeheartedly supporting our clients in this regard. And it is not to overlook that digital events are the best performing content assets according to this survey and others. Why is that? Because digital events, by virtue of being recorded, often being restreamed and being re-edited, provide a tremendous resource when it comes to putting original content for your business together. We encourage our clients to look very carefully at repurposing the content that they acquire as a result of it being partners in our events for this purpose, because as the number of digital channels that are eligible for you to repurpose this content on that happens to be highly relevant to your buyers, this becomes an incredibly important tactic. And I do want to stop for a moment and talk about the most useful content stories for better engagement, because this data is very consistent with our own findings. Product specifications, product comparisons, and particularly product success stories, often in the guise of case studies, are very, very engaging forms of content that we time and time again see as being very successful for our clients. Content that is of value in terms of product tutorials and guidance to solving particular problems by demonstrating use cases are, again, very commonly successful ways of packaging content that is engaging. So the best multi-channel event plan would combine virtual events with content, SEM, social, and email. These are the top 5 bottom funnel tactics leading to conversion from leads to deals. And we very much encourage our clients to think in these terms when it comes to their own integrated event plans. Our 2024 product looks something like this. Our forums, which are half-day events, guarantee 250 leads. They can be digital or hybrid, which is both live and simultaneously streamed. And along with all of our digital events, come with 5 to 10 one-to-one meetings delivered within about 30 days of the event. Our summits are the full-day version of our forums, guaranteeing 300 leads. They can be digital or hybrid again, and again, they offer the same one-to-one meeting benefit. And webinars are 30 to 60 minutes of length, guaranteeing 150 leads, obviously digital, and again, making available to our webinar partners those 5 to 10 one-to-one meetings. In addition to that, we have some very important live experiences which are different in their nature. Our executive dinners at VIP venues typically involve 8 to 10 guests, obviously live. Our executive workshops have become very popular by virtue of the interactive experience that they provide for 10 to 20 odd guests at an appropriate venue, once again, clearly live. And I do want to draw attention to the growing trend amongst our client base to have us help them with integrated event plans, which I've been stressing in the course of this webinar, often being put together to deliver monthly lead targets at a very low CPL or cost per meeting, and integrating email, social, search, and content marketing on behalf of clients. So that's a good look at our product for 2024. To introduce ourselves to those of you unfamiliar with Argyle, our focus is on professional communities. We have over 1.5 million Argyle members, so to speak. All attendees of an Argyle event over the years become members. And these folks are found in certain communities that involve the C-suite or at least director level: the finance community, the IT community, the HR community, the digital marketing community, the human resource community, and supply chain. This is the core value of Argyle when it comes to generating the right audience for our events and for your brands to engage with them. Here's a quick look at our second half event calendar, organised around the various communities that we will be engaging in the course of the last 6 months of this year. Note, please, the occurrence of pretty much one event for every community per month for the remainder of the year. And note also our inclusion of events that are designed to engage AI decision makers, becoming so important in the process, as well as the introduction of an expo format, as we're calling it, which are giving our sponsors the opportunity to live demo your solution to that audience. I won't belabor the detail beyond that, except to say you can see how broadly Argyle is able to deliver an audience for you, and we certainly would like to welcome you to assess what we can do to help you in this vein, because there are a variety of different benefits, not least of which is we're helping you to get to the hardest to reach senior buyers and decision makers. It's an incredibly important means for many folks to get to market quickly and effectively. We provide a national reach on our digital platforms. One of the benefits of virtual events is there is really literally no geographic barriers, including international markets, if that's necessary. We provide a terrific platform to grow your brand amongst national business leaders and provide what is, by virtue of the data, over the years, the highest ROI in terms of lead generation investment, guaranteeing 200 odd different or more leads per event occasion. So with that, we hope that you'll give some thought to engaging with us in helping you put the event marketing strategy you need together. We're very grateful for your attention on this webinar today, and I hope by virtue of it, you're inspired to put your event marketing plan in better shape as a result. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul, for that excellent webinar. We'd like to turn the floor over to Q&A from the audience for now. Just as a reminder, audience members can submit your questions in the chat on the right-hand side of the screen. And also, as a reminder, the slide deck for this presentation will be made available after the fact. You'll receive an email with a link to the slides and a link to the recording of the webinar. So why don't we cover some questions for right now? The first of which is, if there are influencing decisions before accepting a B2B sales meeting, is there a way that we can insert ourselves into those decisions? For example, when a customer is conducting research on us or evaluating us on peer review sites.
Well, I think this is really brings into focus the importance of mapping out the customer journey. I've talked about this on other webinars. This is a very, very important in and of itself. And there are a variety of ways in which we can think about what we do at each stage of the journey to influence the decisions they might be making. That might be some element of content marketing that has shared with the potential influencers pieces about your business and the sort of solution that you have via e-newsletters or e-books. I think social has a tremendously important role to play in terms of positioning your brand and the business solution that you have to be timely when it comes to people making these influences, and so on. So multi-channel marketing is a very important concept that addresses this very question. The second very, very important element of this being effective is that these multi-channel tactics take place on a recurring basis, because we know that buying cycles are different almost for every business. We know the buying journey for different members of the influencers that come around a certain decision are different. And so continuity becomes a very important way in which we can address that and have ultimately event marketing play a role either at the top of the funnel or at the bottom of the funnel, depending on the nature of the sort of business decision we're influencing.
Great, thank you. The next question is, given that the buying cycle now involves more people than it used to, how can we make sure that we're getting our message to everyone we need to get it to?
Well, my answer to this is not dissimilar to the previous answer, except to say that we also have to be very, very careful about beginning to recognize the different generational behaviors within the B2B buying process these days. As I pointed out earlier, over 60% of B2B buyers now fall somewhere between the ages of 18 and 40. And that means also we have to start respecting the differences in the sorts of demography that some channels are better at delivering than other channels. Also, again, not to belabor this point, but the type of content we put together, the editorial strategies we use are also very important to helping make some effort at discriminating between one audience or another. I do think, and I'm going to draw attention to what will be the subject of our webinar at the end of April, that video marketing has a tremendous role to play in this regard. Because firstly, video marketing has so many available platforms to it that do discriminate on the basis of the sorts of typical audience it gets. A TikTok viewer or TikTok user is generationally very, very different with respect to the numbers that are used than, for example, a different platform such as YouTube or Facebook would be. The key point here is to embrace the idea that there are differences, and that those differences in terms of media consumption are advantages to take advantage to use in making your plans. And then when it comes to event marketing itself, the content of these events might be positioned differently to attract one generation differently to another, or to include in the agenda for all of the available generations that we expect to attend the average event, that gives them the opportunity to be drawn to versus certain sorts of content that they may not otherwise be interested in.
Great, thank you. The next question is, how do you think AI is going to continue to change B2B marketing over the next couple of years?
This is a great question, and I fully intend to put a webinar together on this very subject shortly. I'm starting the sort of research that I think is important to create the content for what is this really, really important topic. One of the obvious issues is that if you're in the content production business, you now have a very, very valuable partner. Generative AI, I think, is by far and away the most important type of AI, or AI application, I should say, that B2B marketers should be embracing right away. I am absolutely staggered by what I've already seen from certain types of generative AI, in particular Sora, which is the new ChatGPT generative AI application for video. So this is providing a text to video function whereby you tell the AI to create a certain video, as it were, out of thin air. And the results I've seen are just quite staggering. If folks would like to look into that a bit further, I urge you to do so. Sora is the application. So content production being so important to B2B marketers, generative AI, I think, is the one that's going to matter a great deal. But that also doesn't mean it isn't important to think about other applications, in particular data sciences applications. That is smart segmentation, your ability to identify particular segments by using data sciences to create new segments that may or may not have been able to discover as a result of the normal levels of data crunching that up until now were available. The thing that data sciences based AI applications are very, very good at is scouring and assembling data stories, if you like, from lots and lots of different, very, very distinct but often unrelated databases that you would typically not have the opportunity to integrate. So the result of all of that is that I expect us to become very, very clever and very, very much better informed in terms of the types of audience and the types of segments that we can go after, because data sciences applications will be able to do that for us much, much better and probably a lot faster. So the third point I'd make about all of this is that if you combine generative AI with data sciences based AI applications, the net of it is that your budget is going to, I think, be relieved of a great deal of money because of the executional value that these things provide for you, versus having to do it all completely from scratch yourself, or having to use agencies or other partners to produce it for you. And that means those budgets might be able to go into other areas of the business that you may want to invest in.
Thank you. Let's take time for one more question, and that is, can you elaborate a little bit on what the combination of hybrid and virtual events might look like in practice?
We feel very strongly that it's neither a question of live or virtual events. It's really a function of being able to do both. And so we see hybrid events as the answer, and that is providing a live event experience in a venue that you would typically expect to have such an event, but having that event simultaneously streamed. Now, having said that, what we're experiencing at Argyle is an overwhelming inclination by our clients and the audience towards virtual in the main. And I think there's a lot of very, very sensible reasons for this. First of all, as I alluded to at the beginning of this webinar, and as I've done so many other times, the fact of the matter is that in general, something like 40% of the working population are working from home, and that fact is here to stay. Now, that means it may well or may not be very terribly convenient or practical for a lot of the working population to engage in the traditional live event experience. The other point too, though, is that the reality of the new sales model since COVID is that a great many businesses have captured and don't intend to share back the gains they've made in the reduction in travel expenses and related expenses to attending these large exhibitions and trade shows. Are they going to continue? Of course they are. I think they play a very, very important role for lots and lots of businesses. But on the other hand, the practical reality is that the scale of the virtual workforce means that virtual events are so much easier for people to attend, and by the way, a great deal more versatile in terms of their engagement in those events. I hope that's answered the question. My net and Argyle's position is that we should be able to provide both, but the reality is that the demand for virtual events is very, very strong, and we continue to cater to that demand.
Hey, thank you, Paul. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have available for questions today. Thank you once again for this excellent webinar, and thanks everyone in the audience for joining us today. Just as a reminder, you will receive a follow-up email with a link to the recording and a link to the slides, and we hope you can join us for our next webinar, which will be about short video marketing, and it'll be at 2 p.m. Eastern on Monday, April 29th. Thanks very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Goodbye now, folks.